Welcome to Higher Ed Live, the live weekly web show all about the world of higher education. We're all about digital development and professional empowerment, coming to you live each and every Sunday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 4 p.m. Pacific, always live, always on Sundays. HigherEdLive.com if you are interested. I am your host, Seth Odell, and as you can tell, not the usual background. I am not in our Los Angeles headquarters. In fact, I am in Orlando, Florida. Beautiful Orlando, Florida. I like it. For EduCom 2011, a really exciting higher ed communications conference I'm happy to be a part of, speaking on Wednesday. Huge lineup. I'm going to be bringing you guys coverage all week at HigherEdLive.com, including a one-on-one interview with the one and only New York Times, David Pogue. That's right. David Pogue sitting down with Higher Ed Live tomorrow afternoon to talk about higher ed tech. That's pretty cool. So I am here in Orlando. As I said, I literally just got in, had time to get my bags in and grab a cold one. So a bit rushed. So I apologize. So I'm going to have to preface this with saying no weekly 5 or unsolicited shout out this week. I know usually I start each show with a little weekly 5, recapping the 5 stories that are going on in higher ed right now that you need to know about. Not this week. I apologize. I also have some issues going on. No unsolicited shout out. I'm going to dive right into the topic today because, well, I was a little short on time, and this topic is going to need a lot of attention. We are talking about social media trends and tech trends, and we're going to break down whether or not they are hits or hype. I know, I'm sorry, no weekly 5. I'm sorry. I'll do like a weekly 10 next week, I swear. With travel, it's been a little bit tough. But we're going to be talking today about social media trends, and we're going to be breaking down all the trends, what's getting buzz right now, and is it a hit or is it just a bunch of hype? Now, if you guys are fans of the show, I did this format before a few weeks ago, actually a couple months ago now, with Mark Greenfield, Michael Feenan, Kyle James, when they were live in LA with me. We touched and tapped on this issue a little bit. We're going to dive into it tonight. But before we do, as always, I got to thank the wonderful folks that help make Higher Ed Live possible. So, Higher Ed Live is sponsored by Integral, the creators of the Schools app on Facebook. Be sure to check out their webinar series about how they can help you leverage Facebook to increase yield and retention. That happens this Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, and I'm sending out a tweet right now with a link for that in case you are interested. But it's not just Integral. We got to send out a big thank you to Omni Update. Omni Update is a leading web content management system CMS provider for higher education. The company's web CMS OU campus is secure and scalable with great tools and features, deployment flexibility, and an awesome user community. In fact, it was the highest ranked CMS in customer satisfaction in the 2010 .edu Gurus survey. So, if you need a CMS, guys, check it out at omniupdate.com. Link going out to those wonderful people right now as well. All right, let's dive right into the topic tonight. Let's just make this happen, right, guys? Let's do this. So, social media trends. Here's how we're going to play this tonight. First off, I definitely need you guys to tweet with me with the hashtag. I'm pulling up your tweets all night and showing what you say because I got no guests tonight. It is just me alone in a hotel room in Florida knocking this out. So we're going to dive right in, guys. I want to talk about one of the biggest trends in social media right now that everybody's talking about, location. This is the big thing. Everybody's talking about location-based apps, location-based services, location. Generally speaking, if you guys have been at a conference in the past, 6 months, 12 months, this is what everybody's talking about. So let's break down right now what we really think all about this stuff. So I'm going to start with the big one, Foursquare. Is Foursquare a hit or is Foursquare hype? Is it the real deal? I'm going to come right out and tell you guys right now that I have mixed feelings about Foursquare. I'll tell you that it's a technical hit that you should do it, but I personally think that colleges and universities should spend about, 12 hours, maybe a day and a half, setting up your Foursquare presence, going out and claiming your places, and that's about it. I simply don't see the usage to make it really valuable in using it long term. I mean, right now we're talking about, 6, 7 million users on Foursquare, and it's about 1% of Facebook pretty much. And I don't know. I vote that Foursquare is a slight hit, barely hit. It's just a tap. I give it a tap because I think it should be done. I think it's valuable. But my bottom line is this. What do people get from a check-in? I don't know. That's what I want to know. I've seen it used in higher ed and people are checking in, but I'm not seeing much come of it. And I'm just not so sure that we're not just targeting the same 3% of our student body that's super tech savvy. And that concerns me a little bit. So I don't know. I think, it's a little concerning. I do hear that right now we got some comments already coming in from Mike saying that Foursquare is a great when mobilizing an 8-campus system, Berkeley, College of NYC, New Jersey. They had a great contest which jumped our Facebook numbers 3,000 plus. All right, so listen, guys. If Mike says Foursquare increased their Facebook fans by 3,000, I might turn this into a bigger hit. Now, only thing I'm going to say is, Mike, I know you can't do this right now over Twitter, but let me know how you did that. I would love to hear a blog post or send me an email, whatever. That sounds pretty interesting. If you guys are finding a way to convert Foursquare check-ins into something more, then I want to hear about it. Because that, to me, is the thing. If people are checking in and that's the end of it, that's not engagement, and that's not very valuable. But if you can find a way to convert them, to move that relationship, to increase it into something more, then, yeah, I'd go ahead and give it a hit. But when we're talking about Foursquare, we got to talk about the other guys. This is not a Foursquare competitor, but they are in the location space. Scavenger. If you guys have heard of Scavenger, a lot of schools signing up to Scavenger, a surprising number. And they're using it. Scavenger is a mobile app that students can use their phone to essentially fill out a scavenger hunt, hence the name, obviously. So, Scavenger, what do you guys think? Is it a hit or is it hype? And I'll say this. Generally speaking, again, I think I give it a hit. And I say Scavenger's a hit because people are really engaging with it. It's not just a single check-in in the building. When students are using Scavenger, they're filling out an entire scavenger hunt. They're running around. They're doing a lot of stuff. I like that. I like that someone's engaged long-term with this. But, Scavenger is only a hit if the institution employing it is a hit as well. If this is like a one-time thing, I don't know. Could be a good tool for orientation? Yes, and I'd give it a hit for that. But is it a long-term hit? I don't know. I have to see a school use it. What I haven't seen yet from Scavenger, and again, I am a fan of them, is what is long-term? I mean, are you talking about using Scavenger twice? What is the sustainable use of Scavenger on a college campus? I haven't seen that yet, but I think it's good right now. I agree with, let me just check what's going on right now. Yeah, James saying the Scavenger's a hit for now, but not long term. I got to agree with that. They're kind of like a nice little splash in the bucket. Great for orientation. It's a great tool to use here and there, but I don't see it being a huge thing personally. But it's still interesting. So this is the next thing. It's not really location, but I want to make a move because it involves Scavenger a little bit, and I'll explain how in just a second. But Groupon. Collective buying power. If you guys are probably familiar with Groupon, they're hugely popular. Essentially, every day Groupon sends out a deal for a certain area, and it'll be like half off dinner at this restaurant or half off tickets. It's a really big hit in the private sector. I'm not going to say it's not a hit in the private sector because I think it definitely is, but I don't think Groupon has anything to do with higher ed right now. I haven't seen any good use of that in a college or university, and I'm really having a hard time seeing how that connects. So I just want to say that while Groupon is really popular right now, it's getting a lot of headlines, I don't think we need to worry about it. I say hype, at least from a marketing standpoint. And I'm going to go a bit farther and say this. I'm going to take flack for this, guys, but that's why I love this show. I love that I can say this stuff, and you guys can call me on it all you want. I think Groupon is eBay, man. 10 years ago, eBay, everybody thought, okay, it's all going to auctions. Everything's going to be auction-based. eBay's so huge, it's going to be all about auctions. Every store is going to be selling auctions. It's not going to be fixed pricing anymore. But what happened, right? Not the case at all. Not the case at all. 31%, and a great Wired article, just read it on the plane today, coming to LA, or from LA to Orlando, excuse me. Only 31% of eBay sales are actually auctioned anymore. So it's totally a big shift. But eBay was a huge hype. I think it's the same thing for Groupon. Because what's the deal with the hype on Groupon? You save $15 at a restaurant you didn't want to eat at in the first place, and half the people forget to actually cash it in at all. I think at some point the fun and excitement of, oh man, I got half off is going to wear off, and people are going to realize they're buying stuff they don't really want. And maybe a couple times a year there's something that's relevant, but they're not going to follow it. So I'm going to go out on a limb and go way against public opinion and say Groupon, giving it a hype. I think it's going to fade. I got some comments coming in already, though, about how it might work on a campus. Groupon might be good for enhancing campus community relations by offering ticket discounts at campus events. That's not a bad idea. If your campus actually charges tickets for events, finding a way to give them away at discount price or really entice people to try and get tickets is a good idea. So that's true. My personal experience at UCLA, the tickets we sell are usually really expensive, but we do offer student discounts and stuff, and that's a good point. So I will take that to note, but I'll wait until I see a school do it first. But I think it's a really good suggestion. So we're talking about Groupon, though. What I also like is Level Up. Level Up is from Scavenger. It's a Groupon competitor, but it involves system-by-system tiers where you actually buy more and more and more, build a relationship. You don't just do a one-off customer, you become a long-term customer. But I'm giving it the same thing. I'm saying hit for private sector, but it's hype for college. Don't worry about it if you hear it at a conference. I don't think it's worth your time. But what else do we got going on, guys? We're talking location, Facebook deals, and Facebook places. I got to say that, if anywhere, you're going to hear me say tonight, This has the most potential. Your students are already on Facebook, 600 million almost. I don't think they actually announced that number yet, but huge amount of your student body. I saw one number, 99.5% of students at some schools are on Facebook, almost everybody. That's where I see why drive people to a Groupon or to a Level Up or to anything else to offer your students a deal if they're already on Facebook, and if you can do those deals through your fan pages and convert them. Because again, to me, it's all about long-term relationships, long-term engagement. How can you take a single deal and stretch that into an actual relationship that's going to flourish and last for years and years? It's little things like this, I think, on Facebook that can help. So I'm going to go ahead, guys, right now, say Facebook deals and places gets a big hit from me. I don't think we've seen the potential yet, but I'm telling you guys, that's where your money is. If you want to get a return on investment, offer your students deals on Facebook. Make sure they're active on your Facebook fan page. And then when they leave, they're active alumni, they're active members of the community, they're engaged long term. I'm giving it a hit. That's my opinion. I'm going to go ahead and give it a hit. But while we're talking about location, it's also important to talk about things that you do when you're in a certain location. Do things that you do physically. I got in a big debate with EDU guru Michael Feenan recently about QR codes. This one I want to talk about for a minute, guys. What do you think about QR codes? QR codes, hit or hype? That's what I want to know. You know, if you guys, I'm sure you're probably familiar, but on the off chance you're not familiar with QR codes, it's that little, barcode-ish kind of box, and you scan it with your mobile phone, and it can open up a link, right? I give QR codes the biggest hype ever. I just don't see it. I don't see it being implemented well, and I'm going to come right out and say this, guys. I don't see the point. The only thing this does right now is it links to a URL. That's it. So it's just replacing your having to actually type in the URL. That's all it's doing. It's still just taking you to a website. It's just directing you. I think you would just put the URL on a poster. How many of you, let's put an example. You're on campus and you have a poster out, right? You have a poster on campus and folks are walking by it, and you have a QR code to go online and see, more information about this event that's coming up. You are instantly alienating everyone that doesn't actively use QR codes if you're not putting the URL there. And if you're putting both, why bother? I was just in Subway this week and they had a big QR code, big one. Couldn't get it to work on my phone. Couldn't get it to work. What's going on? That's what I want to know. I just think it's absolutely overhyped by PR and marketing companies right now. They're trying to jump on the next trend. I give it the biggest hype ever, and I want to see what you guys are thinking. So we got QR codes are a hit, just underused so far, so much potential. I don't know, guys. Here's the thing I don't get is I don't see the potential. All it's doing is linking you. So like you're saying, it could link to a YouTube video, right? Just put a bit.ly to a YouTube video. Then anybody with a browser can type it in. I mean, at some point, maybe if it's faster on the phones and they can scan quickly, that might make sense, but I just don't see the potential. To me, here's the steps. I'm looking at a poster or anything physical, and you want to direct me to a mobile site, right? Obviously, a mobile better be a site that's capable to actually be viewable mobile. So you want me to go there. So I have two choices. Either I open my browser, step 1, type in my address, step 2, go, or I open my QR code, take my picture, and I go. It's still the same amount of steps. So until it's way, way faster, which it's not right now, I don't know. And I got to say, I don't think QR codes are going to impress people because there's nobody backing it right now. PR and marketing companies are talking about it. They're talking about it, but there's nobody lobbying the mobile phone companies. Until these apps are native and built into the phone, so I can buy an iPhone that comes, built in with QR codes and it's in the actual camera function. Until it's there, and I don't think it'll ever be there, I'm going to give it a hype. But again, I got to plug and say you guys are definitely disagreeing with me a little bit. I respect that, So let's see. I would never touch a QR code, but other people disagree. And I love that. That's why I love the show. If you guys know of good examples of QR codes in higher ed, please send them my way. Use the hashtag. I want to be proven wrong. I really do. I would love to see good examples of it. Now, the next thing, though, if you talk about QR codes, and this is where me and Michael Feenan got in a great debate. By the way, I wish I had the link right now. But at .eduguru.com, Michael Feenan wrote a great post about the conversation he and I had about QR codes and near-field communication. So I got to plug that because it was a great post, even though we were on different sides of the fence. I still, love Feenan for writing it and just in general. So it was a great combo. But what we debated about, and what I want to talk about now, is near-field communication. Near-field communication, to put it simply, is essentially where you can wave your phone in front of a signal or a stand, and it can read your phone, and it's going to activate. It's sort of like QR codes, but it's the sense that your phone can actually scan anywhere in front of it it's physically close to, and it can actually open up things on your phone. It can accomplish a lot. To put in perspective, because the potential is so untapped right now, Google Wallet is something that's going to be coming out. So you can pay with your phone. You can go to Starbucks and just swipe your phone, over a stand, and it pays instantly. It could replace your wallet. It could replace all sorts of things. I'm going to tell you my hit or hype in just a second, but I want to tell you a quick story. We all know Blackboard, obviously, right? We all know Blackboard, the big company. So what they have going on right now with near-field communication is they are building applications that are going to essentially replace students' ability to have to scan to get into locked buildings, to pay for food, to do everything. So their phone can do all the things that their ID card does now. Pretty cool, but again, near-field communication is going to be huge in the private sector. You're going to see Google Wallet, things are going to happen, but I'm going to come out and say for higher ed only, it's hype. And here's why. You can never have, let me see how I phrase this. You can't have something where you mandatory have to have a smartphone. Yes, Blackboard can offer a service where students can scan their phone to get into locked buildings or pay for food, but that can never be mandatory because not everyone's going to ever have smartphones. It's not going to be 100% usage. So until 100% of students all have smartphones, you can't have something where you can't get into a building if you don't have a smartphone with near-field communication on it. And even then, what happens when your phone dies? Near-field communication in higher ed is going to be opt-in only. And in that sense, I give it a hit. You're going to see it in bookstores. You're going to see it going around campus in 5 years where people are actually using it to open doors and else. But it's going to all be opt-in. It's important to note that. It's going to be opt-in near-field communication in higher ed. So for that's a hit, but it's not a game changer. It's going to be a game changer for folks that want to use it, but I'm curious the usage we're going to see on campus. I don't know what the answer is, but I'm curious. The students are still going to have to carry those ID badges around. It's not going to change everything. So you're going to see a big change in consumer products, obviously. I think you're going to see a big change in people carrying wallets and stuff, but I don't know. It should be interesting. So we shall see. And that's just great. You can also get a near-field communication sticker for phones that don't support it. That's, I didn't know that. Look at that. Dropping knowledge on me. I like that, guys. Very cool. Very cool. So that's near-field communication. I think, so, we're talking about social media, hit or hype. We're breaking everything down. I just got to say it. It's not new at all right now, guys, but YouTube. I can't stress enough how much I think this has always been a huge hit. But the reason I wanted to mention it tonight, even though it's not remotely new, is it is so poorly utilized in higher ed. You guys know that watched my episode a few weeks back about higher ed, how YouTube EDU failed higher ed and higher ed failed YouTube EDU. I'm just so disappointed in our deployment as an industry with YouTube that I just think, generally speaking, we actually are overhyping YouTube for ourselves. We think if you just put things out on YouTube, people see it. Second largest search engine in the world, right, guys? Not unless the content is good. And right now it's not. The majority of the content I'm seeing is not that great. So I'm going to give YouTube a hit, but I'm going to give our ability to utilize it right now a bit of a hype. If we walk around thinking we're doing a great job, we're not yet. We got to have videos that really relay our mission, our backbone of our institutions, provide value to the community, and aren't just commercials that we're dumping up there. So YouTube, obviously, I think we'd all agree gets a big hit. But I just want to preface that and say, giving a little bit of hype to our usage of it, because we think we're doing better than we actually are. So going on with that, live streaming. It's something I'm going to be talking about at EduCom this week. Again, I'm down in Orlando for that conference. I can't stress enough that live streaming is a massive hit. And it's a hit that folks in higher ed haven't remotely understood yet. Live streaming is going to change a lot, and it's going to change a lot soon. And a lot of folks wonder, if live streaming came out 4 years ago, how come it's not caught up to speed? It hasn't taken off like Facebook or YouTube, or even Twitter, or now Foursquare. I think schools are using Foursquare more than the live streaming. And why, right? I understand there's hurdles to using it, but I just have to tell you, live streaming is going to change a lot. In the past year, live streaming is up 600% usage by ComScore studies. It's 600%, it's up. This summer, Verizon phone's going to come pre-programmed with Ustream so people can instantly broadcast from their phone. 4G broadcasting looks great from all the tests that I've seen. TVs this summer built by Panasonic coming out with Ustream as a channel built in. Live streaming is going mainstream and higher ed is being left behind. So that's definitely disappointing to me. Guys, I'm glad to see you guys are out there agreeing with me. My talk here at EduCom is about real-time campus event coverage. It's about live streaming, about the tools. It's going to be huge. And the last thing I'm going to say, because I don't want to tip my hand to what I'm talking about this week, is that right now we put so much resources into putting on campus events, and we put no resources into live streaming them. I was challenged at UCLA that we were going to be putting on an event to celebrate the birth of the internet, which happened at UCLA in 1969. We were proud of that. Technically, first inter-network communication between us and Stanford. Cool, right? So we put on an event, 216 people in the crowd. I was given no budget, partnered with one colleague, and live streamed the event to 51,000 people. Why would we ever restrict what we do to the walls that confine the events, the walls that confine the event space? I don't get that. Our alumni, our community are all over the world, and we need to engage them. So live streaming, massive hit, and I just got to plug it because, again, I'm glad to see, by the way, that you guys get this. So many folks in higher ed don't, but obviously, people that watch Higher Ed Live, you guys are smarter than I am. You guys know what's going on, and I appreciate that. I'm really glad to see everybody's on board that, gosh, it's a huge hit. I mean, you're talking about live streaming via mobile phones, really big. But while we're talking mobile phones and video, I want to bring up something interesting called Social Cam. Social Cam is an app from Justin.tv. You guys know Justin. It's a competitor of Ustream and Livestream. And this is an app they put out, and it's sort of like the Instagram for video. I'll talk about Instagram in a minute, but it's sort of people can instantly share video. It got a lot of buzz when it came out, but I'm going to go right ahead and tell you guys I'm giving it a hype. Nothing we need to worry about. Mobile sharing of video is not going to be nearly as big as mobile sharing of photos ever, obviously. Why? It's a whole lot harder to be ironic in a video. It's a lot easier to be ironic in a photo with a filter. So we're not going to see mobile videos taking off with quick shares remotely on a level that I think will rise where we need to deal with it, as whether it's marketers, web people, whatever we're doing. Again, I think Social Cam is cool. I give them credit, but I don't think it's going to take off the way we think. So gotta hype it. Hype. Sorry, guys. So that's what I think. Oh, great question coming in. How do you make the live stream event interesting? Did you move the camera around? Simple thing, guys, for when live streaming, definitely move cameras around if you can. I mean, right now, I'm stable. You know what I mean? Right now. But here's the thing. You have to engage your audience. That's what it's all about. I mean, really think about this for this show, right? Here I am in Orlando, Florida, in a hotel, and I'm having a conversation with colleagues from colleges and universities all over the country. And how am I doing that? I'm doing that by actually pulling up the Twitter conversation, listening to what you guys are saying, responding to it. We're engaging. This is the kind of thing you have to think about when you're live streaming an event. How can I do this? When we put on live stream events, when I do, I love to try and get people to acknowledge the audience. One example I got to plug is Southern New Hampshire University live streamed their commencement this past year, and the president on stage said, one of the first things he said is, I want everyone in the arena to know that folks are watching from around the world, our online students, families of international students and friends, they're watching. And he looked at the camera and said, folks watching at home, we know you're there. We love that you're a part of this. We are one community. And on stage, he acknowledged that. And that's what's so important. You can't just have an event and think, I'll beam it out to people and they'll just observe it. It's not about observing it. It's about engaging. So it's about the folks in the event acknowledging the online audience, engaging them, talking with the folks in the room, and doing your best. It's always a challenge, but doing your best to blend those and make it just one audience, regardless of geographical location. So that's what I would say regarding that as best we can personally. So big next topic, though, guys, is text messaging. This is one that I'm surprised doesn't get talked up as much as it should. I'm going to lean on you guys, though. Text messaging in higher ed. What do you think, hit or hype? Text is clearly, in general, a hit. I mean, you're talking about 95% open rates on text messages? Huge. Students read them. But do we have a place? I mean, clearly, I think higher ed has learned we have a place with text messaging with emergency communication. Obviously, right? But what about beyond that? There are some applications out there right now, some vendors that offer solutions for using text messaging marketing with admissions. It's out there. That's going on. I'm really torn. I'm going to have to leave this one up to you guys. Is text message marketing in general a hit or a hype? I think there's so much potential there, but I know I haven't figured out how to make it work yet. I haven't seen the folks that have. So we got one hype coming in. I'm leaning towards you guys. Yeah, I need you guys to answer this one for me. I think text messaging is so huge in the younger generation, but I haven't seen how we can really, really nail it with this. Again, I've seen it in admissions a little bit. Folks are claiming they're seeing some results in admissions, so it's worth looking into. But all right, I'm gonna have to be on a little back and forth on this. We got another hype coming in. Okay, good to know. All right, so good to know, Juliet. I'm kind of with you guys. I'm gonna lean hype, but I'm gonna abstain from actually voting on this one. Don't hate me. I'm just going to abstain for right now. I'll be back and vote on it soon. But Good point. Actually, sorry, real quick. Text is too personal for me. I don't want anyone other than my friends to text me. That's actually the exact response I get when I talk to students. They say the same thing. They don't have a place for this, right? So, guys, all right, it looks like we all agree on hype, but I have one hypothetical, actually, I'm going to throw out at you. And this is something I thought about. I'm curious. What if you offered some kind of subscription text message service that was very limited? For instance, you told students on campus, sign up to get one text a day with a featured campus event. And that's all it was. So every morning we'll text you with, tonight, here's this upcoming event that's happening. And it would be a text message. I don't know. I mean, something like that I could see maybe working, but I just doubt that the students would care. Like you guys are all saying, I'm going to have to probably lean hype because it is a little personal, and I just don't see people signing up on via text message the way they sign up for email updates. I think it's a little more personal. People hold it a little bit closer to the chest, so we're going to hype it. But when we're talking actual text messaging, we have to make the bigger statement. This is what all the buzz is right now. It seemed, at least like 3 months ago in Silicon Valley, group text messaging. And this includes things like GroupMe, where you could text a large group of people back and forth. What do you guys think? Does this change anything? Does this make it any more or less, exciting? Sorry, just got quenched the thirst. Does it make it more or less exciting with group text messaging? I think, again, it's still going to fall on what you all are talking about, which is saying that text messaging is something that's more personal. It's something that people consider a little bit invasive if you try to enter that space. So group text messaging works for students. I could see it totally working for student groups, for instance, to be able to communicate. But yeah, I'm going to have to give it a hype again as well. So we'll see. But we got a couple of things. Once a day, I would think that they will just ignore it after a while. That's a good point. I think they probably would. Most of what I see is students who want texts only when deadline is coming. That's interesting. They really want it only then. And yeah, very good point. Two things, really good points. If it's opt-in, how's it different than emails? 2 points there. One, definitely would have to be opt-in always. Great point. Always opt-in, always. And it wouldn't be different in email. That's a really good point too. It would simply mean someone's consuming it, in a different way, giving them the option of platforms. I don't know. We'll see. By the way, Dave Olson of dmolson.com, he's mobile and higher ed. He had a great post recently about how he used mobile in place of QR codes. So folks could text a number to get information sent to their phone. I wish I had that post. If anyone wants to go over to dmolson.com and pull that up, it's a great post. I'd love to link out to it. So I think there could be potential, but I'm going to say largely hype. I agree that there's a personal factor that's just too huge with text that I'm not sure we'll ever really get over. Yeah, that's a great point. Text when things are due. Maybe it's more of a classroom thing. So there we go. So that's text messaging, guys. Let's jump on to the big one, guys. Twitter. I mean, clearly we're all using it, so I assume we'll be on the same page. But what do you guys think about Twitter? Is Twitter jump the shark? Is Twitter as big as it's going to get? Is it getting bigger? I will say that I was surprised. I was really surprised at seeing some recent numbers coming out that Twitter's still growing. That it's really moving on. So I think I think Twitter is not stagnant. And the reason I'm saying this is, sorry, Julie, that's a great point. Twitter, is this even a question? Clearly Twitter's a hit, but I think the point I'm trying to make is, that we're talking about 1 in 5 students using Twitter. That's a pretty good number. So I think that it's growing more than people think. I've just heard some flack lately from people saying, oh, Twitter's kind of not really growing much anymore. Facebook's still moving forward. I think it's big, but I'm going all the way with Julia. I'm in her corner, 100%. Twitter is a huge hit. But guys, I want to make one note though. To think about is hashtags. That hashtags have continued to evolve and change since they were deployed by Twitter, and that to me is where the real hit is. Because as I said, numbers that I'm seeing are like 1 in 5 students are on Twitter, maybe more at some institutions. That's not a lot. It's still a good number, but you're not hitting everybody. But hashtags can pull a conversation off of the platform of Twitter and put it somewhere else, and I think that's awesome. So I give hashtags a huge hit. And just to give you an example of this, you guys may have heard of it. You probably have. I use it at HigherEdLive.com a lot. Storify is awesome. Storify is the best. And Patrick Powers, the only thing you missed was me being awesome for about 29 minutes. Patrick Powers showing up late. Tisk, man. Happy to have you join us. Right now we're talking about Twitter and hashtags. Clearly a hit, but what I think is the big hit is deployment in Storify. What Storify is it's essentially a site where you can type in a hashtag, pull in a whole column of a conversation, kind of like we have going on right now, and then what you do is you can actually drag and drop and build a story of what the conversation was. I mentioned before that Michael Feenan from the EDU Guru and I got in a little bit of debate last week regarding QR codes and near-field communications. He did a great job of deploying Storify to actually show folks that conversation later. So I love the fact that you can have a dialogue on Twitter. They could take that conversation with the hashtag and via Storify and pull it off the site, put it in a blog, put it on your site, put it other places, because not everyone uses Twitter. So if you can take that conversation and make it more accessible, I think that's a huge win. I think this is where we're going to see more space expanding. I love to see that we can take the power of Twitter and move it off. So I'm excited about that. Great. We see a great example of Patrick Powers going on about what example he did for Storify. And yeah, so again, I agree. Hashtag's still a little early, but I'm going to vote that it's a hit, and we're going to see where it goes. So, here's the next one I want to talk about, guys. This is the fun one. Question and answer services. What do you think? This is the big one everybody talked about, Quora. What Quora is, if you're not familiar, people could post sort of a crowdsourced question. They'd ask the world, where's the best place to buy fresh apples in Alabama? Can you believe that just came off the top of my head? It did. Anyways, anybody could answer that question, and then people voted up based on how much they like that answer. Huge hype. I'm sorry. This was a big thing. There's so many PRSA posts, Quora, the next place you have to be. I just think it's huge hype. I think the usage is going to drop off. I don't think the future in Q&A for higher ed is in crowdsourced questions. When students have a question, they generally know they want to ask the institution or someone else. They don't want to just ask the broad world. So I just don't think it works at all for marketing. Some great things coming in. A couple. I'm just not excited about Quora. Totally agree with those. I think Quora works for learning, just not sold for marketing yet. That's a good point. That's a good point. That it is. If you're looking to learn something, you can definitely post something and it works. Definitely not saying it's hype in general, but for us in higher ed, I definitely think it is. So let's see. If you're not answering the question well via Twitter or Facebook, you probably shouldn't have your job at all. I love that. Okay, that's so true. It's just the audience isn't there. Randomly asking questions doesn't make sense, but this is where I'm going to shift gears. You guys see the gears? They just got shifted. I'm going to say this. Q&A in general is still a huge potential. Formspring.me. You guys might be familiar with Formspring. What Formspring is, it's sort of like a personal Quora where people can ask you questions directly. Think about it like an interactive frequently asked questions page. And higher ed is using it and using it amazingly well. The one and only Mallory Wood from St. Mike's College is doing it in Burlington, is doing an amazing job. All her student bloggers have Formspring boxes on their page. You can embed it like a widget, and people can ask you questions, and you answer them, and those answers display publicly. In my opinion, personal opinion, any place you ever have a frequently asked question page, which that's questionable if you want to put that in your site in general, because let's be honest, the information should be there. But if you really want to have frequently asked question pages on your site, every one of them should have Formspring embedded. I just think it's a huge potential. People ask a question, you moderate it so it doesn't appear publicly right away, and then you answer it and your answer appears publicly. What it is, it's a chance to transparently provide customer service to your community. That's awesome. You can answer the questions and then share it, and then it's there for everybody else to see. It's got SEO. People can find it if they Google the question. Huge, huge potential. Formspring, guys. Don't write off Formspring because of Quora. I've seen some people say things like, oh, Q&A is not that big. It's huge. Formspring is huge. It's going to be huge. Only a few folks in higher ed using it. Well, I know Wayne State jumped in the game and is using it, but I think Formspring gets a massive hit from me, and probably massive more just because it's so underhyped. It's nice to see a service so underhyped that's doing such a good job. And we got an answer coming in. The best apples in Alabama can be found in ISOM orchards. That's good to know. I had no idea. I did ask that question 30 seconds ago, so now I know where to find them in case I am interested. So we are talking about Q&A platforms. You know I'm a fan of Formspring. But the next one to go on in addition, do you guys know about VYOU? VYOU. It's in beta. It's coming out of beta, but it's essentially a video version of Formspring. And folks can ask a question, and then you record a video response to them. I love it. I know that Mallory Wood has employed that as well at St. Mike's. I don't think VU is going to be as huge. I think there's something a little personal and sometimes awkward about seeing somebody visually give you the question back. But I think VU can be huge if you think about it more about personality rather than just relaying information. So let's say a student just wants to know a question. When is the application deadline? Great for FormSpring. That's the kind of question you want to come in. You can type out the answer. You can drop a link in. Very easy. People can scan it anytime they want. It's way better for search engines because it's text-based, right? You know, obviously, text is going to be way better for search engines than for a video. But where VU works really well, I think, is with personality. So what Mallory's got going on is her student bloggers are using it because so that way she can build up relationships. People can see the student bloggers, listen to them answer their questions. I love it. You know, I would love to see faculty or a president or someone else, a personality at an institution, get on VU and say, ask me questions. I would love to see an instructor, you know, get on and say, here's this history class I'm teaching. Ask me questions via VU and I will give them back to you. It's like an open, it's just, you know, an open office hours essentially. So I think there's a huge potential there in the video form of FormSpring, but understand that they're not exactly the same. So you want to find a way for your audience to, one, get the information they're looking for already from your site. Two, ask the questions that you want to link to, text-based questions via FormSpring. And then three, if they really want them to connect with an individual with a personality, try VU out. I really think there's huge potential there. It gets a huge hit from me on a personal level. So that's VU. I'm going to move on real quick. I was going to talk about blogging platforms, but I'm just going to talk about one. I still think Tumblr's a big hit. What do you guys think? I love Tumblr because it's got a built-in community. Unlike other blog platforms like WordPress or Blogger, Tumblr's got this group of people that use the platform like a social network, not just like a blogging platform. So it means information can spread quickly. I think Tumblr gets a hit for me, but not simply for being a big platform. I think Tumblr gets a hit for me in sharing fun content. I think people need to understand that the content that you share on Tumblr isn't identical to the content that you share on your traditional blogs. And, you know, Betsy Solar from FIU came on the show, a few months ago now. She showed some great examples of what she was doing with Florida International University using Tumblr to share, like, campus photos, what's going on, ask questions. It was a casual conversation. It was fun. It was exciting. A way to really show the personality of your brand. And I think that's what Tumblr is all about. It's not like Tumblr's not, you know, a different version of WordPress or Blogger. Tumblr is its own social network and blogging platform that you can utilize to really have some fun with. So I like it. No, Patrick Press says, if you haven't mastered Facebook or Twitter, don't dive into Tumblr yet. And then Juliet says, the best part of Tumblr is that I don't have to seek out other blogs. It just gives it to me. Yeah, definitely a very good point there. And, you know, Patrick, I got to agree with your point, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later too, is that, you know, you're stealing my thunder with my little recap. But I'll get into why I agree that it's about the fundamentals and getting the basic things right first. But we're not there yet, Patrick. We still got other things to cover because this is Hit or Hype Social Media Edition, and I'm laying down the law. We got a lot coming out. So let's dive right into the next one, guys. Biggest hit ever for Instagram. Do you guys know about Instagram? It's currently iPhone only, coming to Android. It's a photo sharing application where people can take photos and they put colored filters on them and they can share them. You probably see it pop up in your Twitter feed lately because you can obviously easily push to Twitter or Facebook. Here's why I'm giving Instagram a hit. First off, it's personal. I check Instagram now more than Twitter sometimes. Honestly, I do. It's fun. As I said before, it's really easy to be ironic and clever in a photo with a filter. Really easy. So because of that, folks post a lot. And good point. When is it going to go to Blackberries? I don't know. And I definitely know you do know about Instagram. I'm a big fan of Instagram. And here's the only thing I'm going to say. I said this on Twitter a couple nights ago. Why aren't any brands on Instagram yet? I mean, I know it's early, and I know until it's on more phones, the user base is kind of small. But I'm just saying, I would follow brands that I care about. But you'd have to do it right. Just like you want to use Tumblr and you got to use the platform for what it's for, not for traditional voice. Same thing with Instagram. I would love to see an Instagram that followed a mascot around and took funny photos with it all the time. Or really clever photos or something where you just saw a different side of an institution. It'd have to be fun. I would love to follow I'm trying to think of a UConn photo of the day Instagram, where every day some person in their market office went and took a different photo of the day. People would like it. People would totally comment on it. I'm just thinking there's potential there. And yeah, honestly, I'd check it more than Twitter at this point. I know that's crazy to say, and I'm sure that will pass a little bit. It's a little bit of a fad, but it works. And the thing I love about Instagram is all of my friends on Instagram are connecting with each other. It's really building a network, almost more so than Twitter. It's very interesting. On Twitter, some of my friends bleed over and follow each other, but a lot on Instagram. Like the majority of the folks that I follow on Instagram follow each other, and we've built this network. It's just really interesting. So I'm going to give it a hit, but I will say, put it on the back burner a little bit. All I'm really saying is check your radar. Where's your radar? Did you check it? Put Instagram on it. put Instagram on your radar, keep an eye on it, because I think it has a lot of potential. I'm a big fan of it. But when we're talking about group photo sharing apps, or photo sharing apps in general, there's a new one, Color, that got a lot of hype, where people could all share photos at an event together. Yeah, hype. I've used Color. I wasn't that impressed. It's got a lot of flack for the privacy issues. I don't know. I'm not seeing Color being huge. There is an issue that Color addresses, which is how can you crowdsource photos from an event? Now, that's a very valid thing, but I can tell you, I've mentioned this before on the show, there's two ways that I think you can crowdsource photos better. One is Posterous Events, which is pretty much brand new. It came out about 2 months ago, where you can set up a URL where folks can email their photos in, and it all lands on the same Posterous blog. And then also, you guys can just go traditional. Again, just to plug it, Southern New Hampshire University, for commencement this year, they set it up where you could email your photos to like 2011 at snhu.edu, I think it was, and then that auto-forwarded to their Flickr account. And then they had a slideshow that auto-updated. So it's very easy. So, I mean, you hear about apps like Color where you can crowdsource event photography. I think there's ways to do that already, but I think there is a hit in crowdsourcing event photography. I don't think the traditional voice of the institution is the only thing people want to see. People want to see and experience what folks are seeing. You know, my Instagram this weekend was full of students graduating from UCLA, friends of mine, cap and gown, all the stuff going on. Students are sharing it. You know, I had one student just uploaded 90 photos to Facebook in like the past hour from graduation. If you can harness that stuff, that's what people care about. So I think when it comes to crowdsourcing photography, I give crowdsourcing photography a huge hit, but not Color, and not even necessarily just Posterous or Flickr. Just in general, find a way when you guys put on campus events to let folks share photos. Simple things, just asking, hey, post your photos to Facebook, post them to Flickr with a hashtag, or email this email address. There's a lot of things you can do. Unfortunately, there's no easy solution. Color claimed it would be that solution. It's not, but there are solutions out there that you can make work. So, briefly, guys, question, Yelp. I'm going to lean again. I'm going to lean on you guys for this one, just like I did with text messaging. I love Yelp. I check Yelp constantly. It's obviously the review site where you can review restaurants, venues, all sorts of things like that. I love Yelp on a personal level. I just don't see where it fits in higher ed. But I love it. You know, I mean, I have checked our university pages. There's some up there. There's not a lot. It seems that college universities don't get a lot of traction with Yelp. So I'm going to put, not even hype, because I don't think anybody's hyping Yelp to be big in higher ed. I just wanted to mention it because I personally really use the service a lot, and I think there's a gap where it doesn't relate to higher ed, and we don't need to worry about it. But I don't want to say that without looking at you guys and asking you if you think that's true. So I'm going to give Yelp a big just pass in general. So there we go. Yeah, that's a good point. Pat Prowse, good point. As Yelp is to restaurants, Unigo is to higher ed. Very good point. Unigo's an interesting site. Obviously, your students can review their college experience, post videos, and do a lot of stuff. So there you go. That's a good point. So it's a very good point. So, all right, guys, let's move on to the next one and see what's going on. And what are we going to knock out? This is the big one, guys. This is big. LinkedIn. And why it's big is because I am failing to find a whole lot of examples in higher ed where folks are really utilizing it. So I am just curious what you guys think is going on with LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. I mean, I think there's a lot of potential there on a professional level, but what I haven't seen is a lot of higher ed institutions utilize it more than just building an alumni network and nobody communicating with it. So is LinkedIn hit or is it hype? I'm going to say hit for the simple reason that in today's economy, one of the most important things you can give a graduate is a job. And just giving them an education isn't enough. Making sure that they have a pathway to get a job is so important. As you guys all know out there, we've all gotten jobs before. So much of getting a job so often relies on who you know, not just what you know. And it's about connecting with people. And I'll be the first one to say that if I was contacted by a student at my alma mater that wanted assistance, I would probably do what I could because I really am proud. I went to the College of St. Rose in Albany, New York. I was a communications graduate. I'm proud of that department. I enjoyed going to the school, met my wife there, really have a lot of connections. So if that school asked me via LinkedIn, will you join this network where you can mentor current students or you can connect with them, I would do it. But the thing is, they haven't asked me to do it yet. And that's where it's falling a little bit short. So I agree totally. LinkedIn is a hit. And my question is, who runs it? Is it alumni? Is it career services? And a great point. Why build an alumni network on LinkedIn that just sits there? Okay, I don't want to, harp on my alma mater because I know we're not the only ones. But I'm just going to go ahead and say this and say that my alma mater did that whole private alumni network thing. And I checked in once and there was no content there. And I never went back. And that's really unfortunate, because if there's a LinkedIn network, because I'm already checking into LinkedIn, right? I'm already logging in. And if you're saying, hey, while you're logged in, check out this group, help some people out, I'm already there, I would do it. But they put a burden on me, which was get a new username, get a new password, and have a private network just for this. And I never went back. So I think LinkedIn is a huge hit. A lot of our networks need to partner with career services, stop worrying about career networks of their own, give it up. Give up the fight. Give up control. Go to LinkedIn and make a difference in people's lives. I want to hear, by the way, guys, if you know more about this, do you know any examples in higher ed of people using LinkedIn really well? I would love to hear about it. I would love to do a show, a HigherEdLive show, all about it. So let me know if you guys have any examples, and so let me know what you guys think about that. But we're going to keep moving on, because that's what we do, and we're almost wrapping up here tonight, but I want to bring up this one, guys. Clout. Clout is the service that essentially rates your social presence, and it tells you how influential you are, who you influence, and it's getting a lot of hype lately, and that's why I'm going to say hype. I think it's a bust. I really think that giving somebody a number is absolutely meaningless, and saying your Clout score is 50 and yours is 32, I don't think that means enough to me, and I have looked at the numbers and I don't see where they connect enough. And I have friends that have terribly low Clout scores that deeply influence me. And there's no way that you can tell me they don't. And it's not just influence me, in our real lives. No, they tweet things out and I always read them. And yet, for whatever reason, it doesn't reflect directly in Clout scores. So I have to say, big hype on Clout. But hit, hit for people wanting to use analytics to measure social media. I like the idea of trying to put a number to things, trying to think about what's the return on investment, what are we doing, but itself, Clout is hype, and I'm going to come right out and say that. So I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Clout is hype. I'm sorry, but it is. Anyone that tells you different is wrong. I never, ever worry about raising your Clout score. Worry about just putting out good content and connecting with people you care about, obviously. But if you want to use Clout, check it once in a while as just a resource. As Patrick Powers just says, Clout does a good job measuring quantity of influence, just not quality. Good point. So maybe it's not about not using Clout at all, but it's about using it with a grain of salt. So looking once in a while, using analytics to think about how you can make a difference, and thinking about that. That's what I would say about Clout. And lastly, guys, if you noticed, I didn't mention one thing about social media. Dun dun dun. Facebook, the elephant in the room, the powerhouse. We would all give it a hit, obviously, but I'm going to go ahead and give Facebook 18,000 hits. Or how about 600 million for the near 600 million users they have? I can't stress enough that Facebook is everything. There is an insane user base, upwards of near 100% of current students, huge amount of alumni, more and more older demographics joining on. We're talking about all this stuff, as Patrick Powers said earlier, don't get into talking about, or if you're not doing Facebook and Twitter right, don't worry about these other things just yet. And I have to agree. We all agree Facebook is a hit, but I think we need to understand the magnitude of what Facebook means. To me, on a personal level, when I look at it, I look at Facebook as being the thread that will tie together my prospective students, my current students, and my long-term alumni. That's the thread that all of them use. I don't see that with Twitter right now. 1 in 5 students, a lot less older demographics using it. YouTube, not everybody's watching the videos. Although I will say that the 45 to 55 demographic on YouTube is going way up, I've seen in stats. But Facebook is the thread that ties it all together. So I just want to say, as we're wrapping this up, we're talking about all those other social media hit versus hype issues. Facebook is everything, guys. Facebook is where it's at. Figure out how it works, and not just how to have a fan page. I'm talking about how to do Facebook ads really well, how to do Facebook places, how to do Facebook deals, Facebook community pages, Facebook groups for incoming students, how to geographically target your Facebook status updates. I'm not sure everybody knows that yet. That's one of the most, in fact, I'll say it's the most underutilized tool on Facebook today, is the fact that you can absolutely geographically target all your status updates. Just click the little everyone underneath the box and set to what state, what city, what zip code, or what time zone you want to send it out to. I do that all the time. HigherEdLive was coming to Orlando. I'm in Orlando, Florida right now for EduCom. So I put out a status update only to Orlando, saying if you're in Orlando, FYI, I'll buy you a beer. And nobody else had to see that because I geographically targeted my status update. And that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. Facebook is the thread that ties it all together. So I just want to end on that tonight because it's about perspective, right? That's why we're having this conversation tonight. We're talking about social media, hits, hypes, what's big and trending, what's worth your time. At the end of the day, if what this conversation we're having tonight is about is evaluating the playing field and thinking about our core audience, our community members, how we can work with them, engage with them, it's important to understand not just how to use Facebook, but the magnitude of the tool. It's huge, and it's worth a lot of time. So I just got to end on that and just say Facebook is absolutely where it's at. So, guys, that's about going to do it for me here in Orlando, Florida. Again, I'm here for speaking at EduCom. I want you all to know that tomorrow I am doing a one-on-one with the one and only David Pogue from the New York Times. That's going to be a pre-recorded Higher Ed Live special, again, with David Pogue from the New York Times, going up hopefully tomorrow night, if not on Tuesday. I'll be speaking on Wednesday, and then I'll be finally heading back to Los Angeles, California, where I call home later in the week. But big travel schedule coming up. I'm going to be in Boston in July, Albany, New York, July 24th with a big special. I hope you guys can come out to that with the one and only Rachel Rubin. And July 29th is EDU Tweet Up, a huge event in Boston. Partnering with .edu Guru, Ex Libris, Integral, lots of companies. And we're putting on a big event on a Friday night in Boston, renting out a bar. And for $10, you get 2 free drink tickets and all the food you want all night, including 10 speakers. We're flying in some great speakers. Mike Petroff and I are the kind of guys behind it, mostly Mike's idea. I'm just hosting the event. But July 29th, if you guys can be in Boston, man, be in Boston for EDU Tweet Up. And it's going to be huge. Yes! Thomas Kelly can be there. I love it, man. It's going to be huge. Buy your tickets at edutweetup.com. And July 24th, I'm doing a free event at Reed Media headquarters in Albany, New York. So guys, please come out to that. I'll buy you all a beer afterwards. I'll be in Chicago in the middle of that week, July 26th and 27th. And finally, yeah, I'll be around. I really appreciate you guys watching the show, as always. You know I absolutely do. And tonight's show, I really appreciate it because not only am I, going off not that much sleep and going totally solo, but, I think it's... I appreciate your feedback. This is the kind of thing where I don't know, obviously, I don't have all the answers. In a Higher Ed Live, my goal with this show is never be to tell you guys what all the answers are, and you know that. My goal is to just be the platform for other people. I try to bring on experts each week that know the best in the industry and what they're doing, whether it's Facebook ads or Tumblr or YouTube or anything else. I try to bring them on and let them share their expertise. And so tonight, nights like this when I fly solo, I really appreciate your feedback. It really helps a lot. So, lastly, guys, next week, big show with the one and only Georgie Cohen and Rick Allen from meetcontent.com. Great blog about content and creation in higher ed. And next week's show is a content-first approach to higher ed web. Whether you work in marketing, admissions, web, anywhere, you're going to want to watch that show. Content is everything with the web, yet we almost never talk about it. And Georgie and Rick are arguably some of the industry's biggest experts. Cannot wait to talk about that. So, guys, until then, thanks to our sponsors, Integral, the creators of the Schools app on Facebook, and Omni Update, the creators of the OU Campus CMS, both wonderful companies, wonderful supporters. I will be posting updates all week from EduCom in Orlando. Catch me on Twitter at Seth Odell. And until next time, please check out HigherEdLive.com. We always have updates, newsletters, blog posts. We try to bring you all the best content. And, of course, every Wednesday, we have Student Affairs Live, hosted by the amazing man himself, Eric Stoller. Thanks so much, guys. Take care, and I will see you all next week.